Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everything's well. So one question I get a lot, probably the most frequent question I get is, where should I begin? Should I learn React, Angular, Vue.js, or start from scratch, vanilla JavaScript, Node, Ruby on Rails, Python, C Sharp, PHP? It goes on and on and on. It can be very overwhelming for beginners. So I can certainly understand the trepidation, and it's a good question. So where should you begin? Well, a lot of that depends. I know it's an annoying answer, but depends on a variety of factors: your location, what industry you want to be in, what company in particular do you want to work for, it's so forth and so on. So I would say the biggest factor are location and industry. So I myself am in the startup industry. So I work with startups, early stage startups in particular, on the East Coast. So my kind of where I fall in the broad spectrum is early stage startups, East Coast or East Coast based. Well, they're not really East Coast based, but Silicon Valley style startups. I just happen to be physically on the East Coast. So given those factors, client-side JavaScript frameworks is definitely a good thing to be in. That being React or Angular or Vue, and also just full stack JavaScript, so Node, Express, all that stuff, and Python is good too. And those are like good things to be in my current position. Now, if you're in an entirely different country, like Germany or whatever, like I don't know how it is over there, to be totally honest. So you have to do some research on that. But even if you're in the United States like me, maybe you don't want to work with startups. Maybe that's just not your cup of tea, and that's fine. In which case, you have to research what companies you do want to work for and see kind of what stacks they're primarily using. I would imagine that's pretty common knowledge, but this is how you figure out what you want to, what you need, where you should begin, where you should focus your studies. One bit of advice I'm not a big fan of is when people say things like, "Oh, it doesn't really matter where you start. Ultimately, programming is all kind of using the same concepts and whatnot. Once you learn the first language, everything else will fall in place." They're not wrong per se, but why make it harder on yourself? Like, why make things more difficult? So, for example, I think a big question right now is like Ruby on Rails. Is this a good place to begin? Because it's becoming a little bit outdated. A lot of industries, a lot of companies, especially in my industry, startups are moving away from Rails and moving on to Node, Express, and even like C Sharp and definitely Python. So you see a lot of boot camps in their sort of promotional literature say things like, well, it's okay if you learn Rails because programming is programming. It's all object oriented and higher level stuff. And ultimately, once you learn that first language, moving on to another language or framework gets easier and easier and easier. Again, this is true, but why make things harder on yourself? Why not just start where the demand already is? I never really understood that argument because, yeah, sure, I could learn PHP and then it's object oriented and whatnot, or hell, I could learn just a completely why not just start with Objective C, right? The iPhone programming language before Swift. Why not just start there? Why don't the boot camps just start there? I mean, it's object oriented. It's what I started with. I think most boot camps would tell you though that's just a foolish decision. Why is it foolish? Because no one uses Objective C, at least not anymore. But then I can just retort with the same argument. Well, it's object oriented. Once you learn one language, the rest should fall in place, right? Like what the hell? Like, why not just start there? You see where I'm going with this. So why make it harder on yourself? Find out what the companies you want to work for, find out what they want, and then focus on that. That's it. It's not complicated. I would imagine this is common knowledge, or at least it should be. So let's discuss on some level concretely how to do that. Like how do I personally go about doing this? Like, how do I kind of keep my nose in the grindstone and see where things are and where things are going, which is way more important. Where things are is obviously important, but where things are going. Understand your timeline. If you're just starting out learning how to program, realistically, you're not going to be professional caliber for like 2 years anyway. Okay? So you should be thinking of where will things be in 2 years, not today. And it'll be different. It'll be different. Technology moves that fast, or at least kind of where I am in technology, which is the whole startup field. So that the whole like JavaScript fatigue and things are just moving all the time. And so at least where I am situated, things move crazy fast. So let's get back to that. So how do I sort of pick up the signals? How do I find out where things are going? So first thing I don't have a set process for this. Like I don't have like a step-by-step process. These are just things I do naturally throughout the course of my day as a matter of habit. Like I just sort of do this throughout my day because it's just sort of ingrained in my routine. So I start with Hacker News. This is kind of where I read, do my leisure reading. I just start here. And then you get a lot of stuff here that just sort of gives you clues to where the industry is headed. The most obvious examples are the hiring. So every month, Hacker News has like a monthly job board called Who's Hiring. And you can use that to just get a good feel for what all the jobs are looking for in Silicon Valley. This is a very Silicon Valley centric website. So if you Google Hacker News, Who's Hiring, and then today, so February 2019, just click on that, and there's going to be like around 1,000 posts usually. So at this time it's 839, and then it's simple. You just do a search for certain keywords. So do a search for React, right, and then see how many 86 results returned, right? Do a search for Angular, 9 results returned. Do a search for Vue, 8 matches returned. Do a search for Node.js, or just Node, 33 matches. Do search for Python, 59. Django, which is a Python framework, 15. Ruby, 22, right? Rails, 20, same thing, Rails, 22. And just sort of tabulate the numbers and kind of see, where things are. iOS, 26. Or actually, some of these are the letter iOS in another word. So if we do iOS itself, 16 is the actual search matches. Let's see, React Native, 7. Okay, so this gives you a pretty good feel for where things are in the Silicon Valley world. I think the clear-cut winner is React. I think we can all kind of see that. GraphQL, 9 for GraphQL. I mean, Python had a very strong showing as well. I think it was like 60 or 59. So yeah. I mean, that gives you a very strong indicator of where things are right now, right? But remember, it's not just about where things are. It's about where things are going. So one good exercise is to do this for a Who's Hiring board like a year ago. So let's do like Hacker News, Who's Hiring, February 2018. So this is 1 year ago, right? So 1 year old hiring board. And then bear in mind there are more posts, so 1091, so it's about 150 more posts. And then let's just do the same thing. React, 47. Angular, 6. Node, 17. Rails, 32. So this is interesting. See how there's 30, or let's do Ruby instead. Ruby, 31. Right, so we have 31 matches here for Ruby, and then if I do Ruby over here, we have 22. So in that 12-month period, there's been it went from 31 to 22. Again, keeping in mind that there are fewer posts. There's like about 150 fewer posts in the February 2019 list. That should give you some sort of indication of where things are going. Furthermore, if we look at the React search results, so it's 47 here, 2018, 47 matches for React. 2019, 86 matches for React. Now that's a very strong indicator. That's double, right? That's a double increase. So you want to use that as an indicator of where things are going. Angular. So here's Angular search matches in 2018, February 2018, right? 6, and it's about the same in February 2019. I think it's like 7 or 9. Okay, so Angular is kind of hanging in there. But if you look at if you go back to February 20, let's say 2015, right? Now we're going back 4 years, and we do Angular. 22, pretty strong drop off. 650 comments. So from a percentage standpoint, if you look at it from a percentage standpoint, the drop off is even more sharp. It's an even bigger drop off. If we do 2014, right? This is right about when I picked up Angular. They don't have February, so we'll just do June. Let's do June 2014. 20 search results across 433 listings. That's about half. So if you double that number, it's going to be about 40 search results, right? So from a percentage, like a per capita standpoint, it's going down a lot, right? I mean, Angular's down to single digits in 2019. And don't forget, there's almost 1,000 posts. 839 compared to 433, right? So from a percentage standpoint, it went way down. So that gives you a good feel for where the industry is, not just is, but where it's trending, where it's going. And that's a very good way to kind of see what you should be focusing on. That's it. It's very simple. Demand, supply. It's a supply and demand marketplace. This is something I never quite understood. One thing that programmers coming into the industry, so new programmers do, that I just don't understand this, is they focus on what's easy for them. I'm going to do Ruby on Rails because it's easy. Well, then first of all, everyone's doing that. Second of all, who cares if it's easy if nobody wants it? If nobody wants it, then it doesn't matter how easy it is. You're just setting yourself up for more work down the road when you realize, oh, I should have done Node Express and React instead. So you focus on the demand, which is exactly what we're doing here, and then make your judgments based on that. Again, this is not rocket science. And I assumed this was common knowledge, but this is not how a lot of people think. So I'm showing you kind of how I do it. And again, I don't have like a step process for this. I just do stuff like this naturally throughout my day. It's sort of an organic part of my day. So yeah, that's one thing. Just looking at the hiring, I'm just looking at my notes. Just looking at the hiring boards isn't really like the only thing you should be doing. You should all just kind of pick up on certain things, like the industry activity, I guess is the best way to put it. I bookmarked a couple examples that I want to show. So let me see if I can find it. So if I go here, SoftBank, which is one of the major VCs. Okay, so SoftBank right here closed around a $940 million. SoftBank is a huge fund. It's like a multi-billion-dollar fund. And an autonomous delivery startup, Nitro, right here. And they also raised from Greylock, which is like a very prestigious venture capital firm. Probably, a couple other high profile VCs. So Why do I point this out? Because a lot of the demand is driven by VC activity. In my industry, again, this is my industry. So startup, Silicon Valley, all that stuff. So you have to look at the layers that drive the demand. All right. So in my industry where I work, the VCs drive all the demand. They put all the money into the companies that they want to see grow. And then the companies spend that money on marketing, engineering, real estate, rent, etc. And so the demand is propped up by the VC activity. And the VCs are no different than most people. They kind of just follow the trends too. So when you see SoftBank, which is like they're one of the popular kids in the VC group. The popular kids are SoftBank, Greylock, Sandhill Ventures, Google's VC arm. Those are like the cool kids kind of. And whatever they do, all the other smaller VCs in Silicon Valley, New York, like Union Square Ventures and whatnot, they all follow. Because people, they don't think for themselves. Like, they just follow whatever the big guys do, right? And then next thing you know, an investment like this, $940 million, almost $1 billion into one company, that's going to lead a trend that probably accounts for at least $1 billion. So it's probably going to be another 15 to 20 billion into these kinds of startups across the entire industry. It's like a ripple effect. Like when you drop a rock into a pond, it creates a ripple effect. SoftBank just created a huge ripple effect. So then what you want to do is look at what kind of company are they investing in. So delivery service, blah, 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 Neuro, Greylock, I said last year's building an amazing team, blah, 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 same old crap. Self-driving technology, self-driving technology. So self-driving technology, autonomous delivery, what do you think all that is? That's machine learning, data science, the usual shit. So that's how you know where to focus your energy, because this is right now what's happening here is these are very strong indicators of where the next, I hate to call it bubble, but where the next fuel of investment is going to go. It's all headed to there now. At least for the next 3 years, maybe closer to 3 to 5 years or so. So right now all the bets are being placed in there, right? And then that's going to keep a lot of these startups solvent for 5 or so years, and the winners will go on for a long time, like Uber, and most of them will flame out, but they're going to have a 5-year window where they remain solvent. And then a lot of that solvency, just through VC cash, if you do your job right, a lot of that solvency should end up in your pocket. That's it. Just study what technologies these people need and then learn it. It's that simple. Just do it. That's it. And then you're set for the next 5 to at least 5 years, like on the low end for the 5 years. If you end up with the right company, like an Uber, like an Airbnb, you're set basically for the rest of your career. And if if you're really in the right position, like where you get early employee stock options, you're set for life. That's exceedingly rare. But the point is, there's no reason why you can't calculate this. You just have to be smart about your career. That's all. Just be smart about how you make your decisions. But by smart, you don't have to be a genius. I just mean understand where things are going, and then make your decisions based on that. And I am literally showing you how I can see where things are going. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a genius. I don't have some sort of insider information. It's not really hard to see these things. Just see where all the money is going. That's where all the demand is going. Learn that shit. Learn it. And then learn the technology. The only bad news, I've said this in another video, the only bad news behind all of this is that with each round, with sort of each cycle, these are cycles. With each passing cycle, the underlying technologies get more difficult. And that's just how it is. With every passing cycle, the underlying technologies get more difficult. So, given my kind of the trajectory of my programming career so far, I'm kind of coming out of the tail end of the first cycle, and that's the iOS app cycle. Remember, I started programming in 2012, and I picked iOS for a reason, this exact reason. Because I knew in 2012, or more accurately 2010, when I first started programming, that it's all the money's going here. I did the same analysis. All the money's going to iOS, and I just made my decisions based on that. So, and it worked out beautifully. Now I can't do that today because the investment cycle is not nearly as strong. Actually, let me just go back to this is 2019, right? So I did an iOS search, right? So iOS only had 16 results. Let's see what 2014 had. This is 2014. So iOS 37. You see the difference? And again, remember, this is 433. It's about half the volume. So if you multiply that by 2, we're looking at 75 versus 14 today. 16, excuse me. So 2014, right, which was 2 years into my career, I was right in the catbird seat. I was calling all the shots. I was picking my clients and everything. It was great. It was actually a great time to be an iOS engineer. But I knew even then it wouldn't last. I knew that. So I picked up Angular, and then I picked up Node Express, and then I picked up React, all in the next 18 months, 12 to 18 months. And then, I'm still doing that. This is just the name of the game. You pick up the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, right? And that's just how it goes. Point is, what worked for me won't work for you. Going into iOS today is just stupid. If you're a beginner, don't do that. I tried to talk some people out of it a couple of years ago. They wouldn't listen to me. So for this reason, I tried to talk them out of it for this reason, just based on the trends. But whatever. I mean, people need to make their own mistakes. That's fine by me. I'm just giving them the information. So today, you want to evaluate where things are going right now, and then make your decisions based on that. So let's see. Okay, I just about covers all my points. I use Stack Overflow Hacker News as an example, because that's just kind of what I normally use. But this is not the only place where you can get this information. Other examples are like LinkedIn. Obviously, Stack Overflow has a great job board. GitHub just started one not too long ago. It's good. What I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying look at this particular website for all this information. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, here is how you should interpret information. Here's what you should do with the information that you find from whatever is a reliable source. It's all about properly interpreting the information. The information is there. It's all there. The data is all there. But it's a matter of who can properly interpret it and make the right decisions based on that. And believe it or not, most people can't do that. They're just not, I don't know, they're just not analytical thinkers. And that's the problem. It's all right there. It's free. It's right in front of you. And then you have to figure out what to do with all this information. Just distill it down to its core essence, what matters, right? And if you can't do that, then that's why things are difficult for you. That's why things are harder for you than for someone like me, where it's I'm never not in demand in technology. It's just easy for me. It's gotten boring for me. So, anyway. All right, so that's the point. Hopefully this gave you some actual concrete stuff you can start doing literally today, and make some wise decisions based on this. There's no reason why you can't do this like I do. This is how I go about my career, and it works, and it's easy. It's not easy to pick up a new framework or a new language or a new technology. That's hard, but that takes a little bit of doing. But making decisions on what to focus on, that's easy. It's kind of obvious to me. I feel like I sometimes wonder why people don't know this. Why don't you know this? Why isn't it obvious that GraphQL is going to be a great thing to learn in the next 2 years? Or to you, why isn't that obvious? Or to whoever I'm talking to, why are you learning Ruby on Rails? Who told you to do that? Why did you follow that advice? I'm not saying Rails is bad or Ruby's bad. I don't really care what's good or what's bad. I care about what gets me paid. And that's it. I care about what gets me paid. And this is how I figure out what those are. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully this makes some sense. I guess leave any questions or comments in the comment section. I don't know, and I'll try and answer whatever I can. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.